killers if we wanted to be. We could be Jason, we could be spooky, we could be funny, we could be hoes, we could be prostitutes, we could be butt-ass naked if we wanted to be. But now, on the flip side of that, that's fun. That's theatrical. That's being a character. But being a part of the LGBTQ plus community doesn't mean that we're playing characters. That's polar opposite of what Halloween stands for. And I won't get into the religious aspects of Halloween. Let's just keep it Halloween costumes. And notice that the Mexican culture or the Latin culture is on the very next day mourning the lives of the dead people. And I am a part of that culture, so I know that aspect very well. Why is all of this important? Because mainstream society is getting fed so many false and negative narratives to keep y'all's minds twisted. I told them when I was coming in I was not going to have a filter. I don't think I've said the F word once yet, but it may happen. But I'm trying to be as professional and as specific as possible. When my friends and I came out of the parade and everybody was heckling at the protesters, and as an activist and a protester for many things in my life, it was very painful for me to see something. You could still see the end of the parade going down the road, right where they were passing, right where these protesters were. And as soon as the fire trucks made and the police escorts made that corner, the protesters started instantly. They were already there waiting. They were very respectful. Again, who wasn't respectful were the people coming out of the most happiest, fun place on earth. People think that Disney is the happiest place on earth. Disney is the scariest place on earth. If you actually look into the history, if you are into any kind of CGI or cinematography or just playing with effects on your phones, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Actually going back to the black and white Mickey Mouse, when Mickey Mouse first started, there is a lot of negative stuff that is hidden, messages that are hidden. And I don't have to get into that because we all know it. The Catholic people brought it out. Sex in the sand during Lion King. That's just one example that everybody will remember. But Disney is actually the scariest fucking place on earth. Why? Because it's Halloween every day there. Do you actually get to see the people under the costumes? No. This leads into the segue. Most of the people that work in those costumes, if they're little, they're usually females or little short dudes. But this is a lot of where the Me Too movement came in. Disney and Hollywood. Disney and Hollywood. So, I am actually going to read exactly the short version of where the Me Too movement started. So, it says, #MeToo is a social movement against sexual abuse, sexual harassment, rape culture, and in which people publicize their experience of sexual abuse and or harassment. The phrase, quote unquote, Me Too, or I should say, open quote, Me Too, end quote, let's be grammatically correct, was initially used in this context on social media way back in, wait for it, 2006. On MySpace by a sexual assault survivor and activist and friend of mine named Tarana Burke. So, now we're going to go to the Me Too movement page. We're going to talk about those topics in just a minute because that's what my book is about. But if you actually go to the Me Too page, and you start scrolling, just start scrolling. Just don't even hit anything. Just start scrolling. It says Me Too. And, you know, a lot of men, like, I'm Team Johnny Depp, 1,000%. Team Marilyn Manson, 1,000%. But I also happen to be spiritually different and guided And I can tell when people are lying. I'm kind of like the mentalist that way. We'll leave it at that. You got to check me out on TikTok for all the other fun stuff. But what's the first thing? So if y'all are driving, please don't go to the website. But in your spare time, I implore you to go to the website and look at what Me Too actually has waiting for you. And it actually says healing awaits. Now, last night I posted about this show. So I have this thing. I just turn on my TV because I talk for a living. I turn on my TV and I go to Hulu because I'm Team Hulu. And I just pick whatever it suggests because the algorithm is going to give me stuff that I want to watch. And I don't watch the news. Quit watching the news 2.5 years ago. Don't plan on going back to that subscription anytime soon. But I kept hearing about Me Too, Me Too, Me Too. And I was like, why in the fuck is this cycle coming around again? Now, again, I have known this person, Trina Barnes, for many, many years. And I was very, very big into, I was doing the anti-fracking and a lot of saving elephants and rhinos and banning the ivory trade. I was on the climate reality thing. I was all eco-friendly when she came out with this movement. When she came out with the movement, it inspired me to tell my story. Not only from a victim's perspective, but more so from a survivor's perspective. And when I started writing the book and I was talking to Tarana, I was like, yo, how the fuck do you do this? How do you do this? How do you heal? So for those of you who don't know, I'm a clinician. That's the fancy word by trade. I have a lot of medical certifications in a lot of different areas, from esthetician to prescribing medication. So I know that my brain is never going to forget the acts or the scenes that I can't unsee, the acts that I can't undo, the ashes that I can't unburn, the words that I can't unsay, the scars that I can't make go away, even with plastic surgery. Guess what? Leaves a new scar where the old one was. What's the fucking point? I had to be alone. So I started truck driving. And people were like, you're doing what? You're little. You're going to get on a truck? Yep, did. By myself, across the entire country, Canada and Mexico, Alaska as well. And yeah, I was terrified when I first went out. I've never been scared of anything in my life. And I had a bounty on my head most of my life and never even knew. My body has been raped and pillaged to pay off my dad's drug debts as a teenager and as an adult and as a married adult, as a mom, as a wife who had to tell her husband this shit later in life, like when I wrote my book. And I'm working on the second one right now. So this has been the hardest challenge for me. The first book was very, very hard, 15 years in the making. Which stories to tell, which stories. Again, when you write an autobiography or you start a movement like Me Too, it should not, okay, let me rephrase. It should not be about saying, oh, so-and-so did this to me, I want that MF to die. That's not how you should be. That does not create healing. That is being a part of the problem. The friend that I went to Pride with, this actually happened to her. When you go to Pride in the same town that you're dating people in, Houston and the world is not that big. I see people, when I go to other countries, I'd be seeing people that I know. So, I saw 2 ex-girlfriends at Pride, one of them with different people each time. But that's how she operates. Which is why we're not together. I'm not even friends with her. I cannot be friends with fake people. Being fake. I cannot stand it. And I'm a person that can't be lied to. So when you lie to me, I am instantaneously and subconsciously detaching our energies from each other. And when you drop me off, that's probably going to be the last time you hear from me. Because I just don't have time for that kind of energy and negativity in my life. It is my hugest pet peeve, and it is one of the gajillion reasons that my birth vessel and I, or she doesn't have contact with any of her kids that I know of. None of us talk to her. I don't even know where she lives. I know she lives in Louisiana somewhere, but that's all I need to know. She could be dead. I wouldn't know. And I actually wholeheartedly don't care. It takes a lot to get to that point where she has no control over me anymore. And not only her, but anybody who hurt me in life doesn't have control over me anymore. I gained my control back, and it was through following the Me Too movement. Now, are there problems with the Me Too movement? Fuck yes. That is what happened starting in 2020. So what happened in 2020, guys? Well, it's actually started happening. For those of us who were working in medicine, we noticed that there was a crazy respiratory disease that was going around that in our clinic specifically actually expired 3 lives. And the doctor was up days without sleep in the hospital with the families. Ventilators weren't working. Medications were making shit worse. And eventually, they either came out of it or they didn't. And this was back in October and November. So, the world shut down. The world shut down. And then everybody was like forced to do what? Face themselves, face their spouses, significant others. Some people were locked in homes with people that they didn't plan on being there that long with. And some people took it as an advantage to look in the mirror and do the scary work. That's what I did. I had already been working on myself, but through truck driving, but it wasn't until shutdown. And my husband and I are, yes, I'm lesbian, and yes, I'm married. That you got to go to my actual podcast or TikToks, 8:00 Monday, Wednesday, Fridays to hear my real, like the detailed part of my life. I am a wholehearted lesbian, and yes, I am married to a male who is not any part of the alphabet mafia. We have an interesting dynamic, and it works for us. So that falls into the Me Too category. So, not that he has ever abused me. I don't want anyone to ever think that. That is the furthest. On my podcast, when I say Jesus, they know that I'm referring to my husband. I'll leave it at that. So, if Jesus was a human, he is at work right now building a hospital for sick people. Anyways, moving on back to Me Too. The problem that I have with the Me Too movement that millennials have started. So back in 2006, we didn't have millennials just yet. They was like little babies. They was walking, probably sticking their fingers in light sockets and doing crazy shit, right? They didn't really have voices just yet. So, the Me Too movement that y'all are out there marching about right now isn't the original message from Me Too, because millennials were not old enough to understand. Gen Zs and Ys, y'all were not old enough to understand what the fucking movement was about. And still is about. So, I am here today to talk about this new hashtag, wewillnotgoback. How does this tie into Me Too? Well, again, men are making decisions over women's bodies, but we're not allowed to reciprocate that to them at all. So there is this thing going around that says, look, somebody's flipping me off. That's awesome. Love that. They're Team Netflix, and they hate that I'm talking about Mormonism. That's fine. I'm not here to talk about Mormonism. I'm saying that